Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Do you ever get to the end of a movie where the hero had to make a difficult choice, and all you want to do is talk to people about whether they made the right one?
Watch an episode of Star Trek and spend the next few days thinking about the rights of synthetic beings like Data and the Doctor. I became a co-host of the Superhero Ethics podcast because I love those questions, and the people at Wendy's are tired of hearing me talk about them.
We're not a review podcast. We're more interested in questions the characters face and how different works approach similar questions. Sometimes we'll even go behind the camera, talking about how on-screen media gets made and how that affects what questions get asked, which ones don't, and who gets to ask them.
We hit a wide range of media: movies, TV shows, books, and video games.
You can find us under Superhero Ethics wherever you listen to podcasts or go to theethicalpanda.com. But you can also do far more. We love listener feedback and we'll happily talk about your questions or comments on air, and members get special bonus content.
Hashtag not sponsored by Wendy's.
What's up, Supernatural superfans? I'm Chrissy Lenz.
And I'm Nate McWhorter.
And we're the host of
Gang That Drink,
a supernatural drinking game podcast.
It's the podcast where we make up drinking game rules for a favorite episode of our favorite show, Supernatural.
We recap the episode for you and let you know how all the rules played out.
Then we let you know the drinking game rules for the next episode, so you can play along.
Plus, members get every episode early and ad-free,
with some extra bonus content chit-chat at the end of each episode as a member exclusive.
So download Gank That Drink, a supernatural drinking game podcast, wherever the finest podcasts are available.
And or become a member at truestory.fm/gankthatdrank.
And when you're out there in the world saving people and hunting things,
you know, the family business.
Keep the Gank That Drink motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes.
I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to the next reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Patriot Games is over. You're not going to make me wear a rubber, are you? You know, the church says wearing one of them is a sin, darling.
This won't be like anything you've ever done before, little brother.
Target leaving the palace now.
Miss Daddy.
From the producer of The Hunt for Red October.
Get down!
Based on the best-selling novel, comes the summer's most explosive motion picture.
Buddy.
So, you just waded on in like John Wayne.
I couldn't just stand there and watch him shoot those people. It was rage. Pure rage.
A reluctant soldier.
They were moving him to Albany Prison on the Isle of Wight when it happened.
They are unarmed.
We know he's escaped.
We think he's left the country.
In a war that isn't his.
What Ryan done can't be undone, so you should stop thinking about it.
I can't.
There's never been a terrorist attack on American soil, Jack. These men are professionals. Personal revenge rarely plays into it.
But I killed his brother.
Let's do it. A man fighting for everything he holds dear.
Where's Sally?
Let's sit down for a moment.
No, talk to me.
For justice.
I'm after the man who tried to kill my family. I want back in. Who are we looking for here? IRA terrorists or some ultra-violent faction of the IRA? This is who we should be looking for. We find her, we'll find them.
For freedom.
Where are you taking me? It's you who've taken us, Jack, into battle.
ETA, 35 seconds.
SAS can take on any one of these camps. Are you sure this is the same girl?
For family.
He's never gonna let us go, is he? I don't care what you have to do. You just get it.
For keeps.
Where's Sean Miller?
Get me hostage rescue at Quantico now.
Airborne support approaching target area.
Patriot Games.
Oh, yes.
Regret. Regret. It's just a podcast of regret.
Oh my gosh, yes. Podcast of I don't know, we went from a Russian series to an Irish to this is like, then it's like Russian, then Russian, Scottish. Now we're into the Irish.
We are.
And then
That's right.
And then Clear and Present Danger. I don't know what the president's accent is, but I guarantee you're going to be using it.
Sure as hell I am. We're moving to Washington. We're just doing a tour of the globe from east to west. Yeah.
What will come out of Sum of All Fears? I can't wait to find out.
Oh my God. Who even knows anymore?
Yeah. Who knows?
Okay.
Who knows?
Well, hi. Welcome to Patriot Games.
Yes, here we are, finally. We're going to be talking about Jack Ryan. This is the next iteration of Jack. We're talking about Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. How did Harrison Ford end up in this movie?
Before we get into that, I just have to say there was more analysis in this than I had remembered. Now, I will say there's also the action sequences at the beginning and the end when it's a little like, that's not my Jack Ryan. Like, he's a little too like ready to kick ass.
That's not
and in
my
fact,
Jack Ryan.
He lays out, it was really funny in his conversation with Samuel L. Jackson's character. He lays out why he's doing it. He's just like, I just got so mad. I'm like, wow, don't piss this guy off because he may be an analyst, but if you make him mad.
Serious rage issues, yes, Jack Ryan.
Right.
Very
That's
serious.
when they say, you know what, we need to put you in counseling a little bit. Just, have you kind of worked through some of this
Have you
anger?
recovered from that helicopter crash? I think you're still carrying some things around.
Yeah. Holy cow. So I'm curious. It was nice to see, though, like the middle part of the film, like actually like CIA analyst stuff. Like he had a team of people he was working with and they were trying to figure stuff out. I was like, look at that.
And I bought that. I bought all that, right? I love it. Like that stuff is the best. So I don't know. This movie has a lot going for it. Like there are some things that I really, really like. The question that I have, because we started this conversation last week, is would you have preferred to see Alec Baldwin continuing the role now that we have Harrison Ford?
Yeah. And that's a good question. And it's, I've lived with this film since 92 when it came out. So it's been a Harrison Ford film for such a long period of time. It's difficult at this point to kind of picture Alec Baldwin wearing the mantle anymore. I think he could do it. And I would have, I don't know. I just liked him so much in it. He also was younger. Harrison Ford, I know one of Tom Clancy's issues with it was Harrison Ford was in his 40s and Alec Baldwin was in his 30s. And at this point in his life, Alec Baldwin is closer to the age of the character. I guess I'm okay with Harrison Ford playing the role. I think the issue for me comes in, and honestly, I haven't read the books like you have. Maybe Tom Clancy also started throwing a little more action into the books too, because obviously, I don't know. I guess in the book, is the opening the same where he actually thwarts the terrorist plot and kills one of their brothers?
Well, I don't remember the details. It's been a long time, but I do think you're right. All the books have a degree of action in them. The difference is the context of the action makes it more believable that somebody like Jack Ryan would incidentally be there, right? And because I think you just have so much more space to run. I never finished a book thinking, gosh, he just doesn't feel like an action hero to me. And the movies, I feel like they're more intentional. Like he's like that opening sequence. It's just like, I got so angry. Don't make Ryan angry. You don't like him when he's angry. It doesn't hold as well. But I wonder if that same scene with a younger Alec Baldwin would have felt more natural, more because he's younger and more impetuous and more impulsive. So, I do find that the thought experiment interesting to, even though I cannot imagine Alec Baldwin actually continuing the role.
I think the part of the interesting challenge of the situation is that his wife and daughter are there. And for me, as a father, my whole mindset would be protect my family. Like we need to stay safe. What can we do to stay safe? And I don't know. I like to think that I have it in me to say, I'm going to stop that guy. He's not looking and I'm going to attack him. But at the same time, I have a feeling I would stay with my wife and children cowering behind a car because I knew that there was less of a chance of any of us actually getting hit by a bullet, or kidnapped or whatever. I mean, you don't know really what they're doing. And so the fact that Jack Ryan goes into rage mode. It's funny, actually, now that Harrison Ford is turning into Red Hulk, because this is exactly
the role he was born to play.
He's not involved in the situation at all. He happens to be in its proximity, which is the whole thing. His wife and daughter, that's his first instinct too. He goes and saves his wife and daughter, but then, and nothing triggers it other than the fact that these are bad guys and they're attacking a car that's passing by. It triggers his rage to such an extent that he forgoes keeping his family safe and just throws himself into the fray. And I think that that's an interesting mindset. And, CIA training, perhaps I can understand that they're maybe more likely to engage in something like that and just to throw themselves into the fray and jump into it. And so I think perhaps I can buy into the opening and the setup for the book that Tom Clancy had, regardless of who's playing it. I think by the time I get to the end of the film, when it's full-on action mode in the boat as they're fighting on these motorboats in a stormy sea at night, for me, the bigger struggle I have is that action sequence of the film. It feels less like where Jack Ryan would be,
Yeah, and it makes me think, give me a second. I'm trying to find the implied time between Red October and Patriot Games.
In the books or in the films?
So this is the thing that's challenging. So Red October and Patriot Games for the character Jack Ryan. According to the timeline, the Hunt for Red October takes place in 1984, while Patriot Games is set in 81, 82.
Interesting.
So the films altered the timeline. Originally, Patriot Games was a prequel, effectively. It does not follow the established timeline of the novels. In the book series, Patriot Games occurs before Hunt for Red October, but the order was reversed in the film adaptations, and the difference is about 2 years.
And then Without Remorse, just as a side note, Without Remorse is another Tom Clancy novel that is actually a prequel to Patriot Games. So then theoretically, Without Remorse becomes the first book chronologically.
But we infer that Patriot Games is set after the Hunt for Red October. It is an unspecified amount of time, but certainly long enough in the movies to sort of buy that Jack would have gone back to the CIA and worked and had a team, and certainly long enough to know all the people there who miss him when he walks back into the CIA in this movie, right? He clearly had a career there, which I mean, is that your understanding? It felt to me like more years had passed, certainly more than 2.
Oh yeah, it felt like some time for sure.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because and I know it's hard to base it on the age of characters, but if you look at Thora Birch as the daughter, she seems probably 4 years older than, she seemed about 10, and the girl in the first movie seemed maybe 5 or 6. So I'd say it's 4 or 5 years later, is just based on...
Yeah, I'll go 5 years. 5 years feels good.
Yeah, and that would work then for the amount of time that he would be gone for those people to be remembering him so fondly when he comes back.
And at least it gives you something to hang your hat on with the age difference between Baldwin and Ford.
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah, you can...
Right,
you can say that. Yeah.
I don't know if I could get 5 years. It seems a little bit on the short end. What do you remember the controversy when the casting change happened?
I wasn't paying attention to that sort of thing at the time, so I missed it. But yeah, I know that there was quite a bit of controversy with a lot of the things going on with this film.
Mostly because Baldwin brought his A game in the press. So he says Paramount, quote, cut his throat, saying that they negotiated illegally with another actor. Ideally, we imagine it was Harrison Ford. He says McTiernan said that Paramount owed a large sum, quote, to a famous actor and wanted to use the Jack Ryan role to alleviate that debt. So Paramount gave a movie to this actor to pay off, essentially to pay off a debt that they owed this actor. Baldwin called David Kirkpatrick, Paramount studio executive, a beady-eyed, untalented tool, reportedly. That's outstanding. And Kirkpatrick had said to Baldwin, I need you to agree on an open-ended clause for sequel dates, or you're going to lose the role. But Baldwin was about to hit Broadway in A Streetcar Named Desire, and that would have messed him up because he would have been under a stage contract. And so he said no. Paramount just says negotiations dragged on for too long. Baldwin was nervous over controls, and he withdrew himself, Baldwin did, from Patriot Games because he wanted script approval and refused to approve a script. So who knows? I mean, clearly they wanted Baldwin, but he might have been being a real Jack Ryan in the negotiations, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think that it sounds like they used a lot of the things going on in behind the scenes as ways to just kind of get him out of there. Like the fact that he was on Broadway, and then they pushed the start date for Patriot Games 2 months, which would have pushed right into the play, and then all of this other stuff comes up. It sounded pretty frustrating and ridiculous. And it's interesting because, again, McTiernan wanted Harrison Ford for the first film, and Harrison Ford said no. And then apparently Ford said, hey, that looks like fun. I'd love to be part of the next one after the first one. And that kind of pushed all of this. Again, it hasn't been said that Harrison Ford was that actor, but it does seem like that's kind of the way that the whole thing happened. So, and then it's interesting because then Ford goes on to sign a 3-picture deal and only ended up doing 2. I wonder if they ended up having to buy him out of that at some point.
Yeah,
or he had to do some other thing for them.
I guess we'll find out in a few weeks.
Maybe that third film is 6 days, 7 nights. Maybe he just told them, just give me something else to do, and that's what it was. Who knows? I don't even know if that's a Paramount movie. I just needed it for the joke.
You needed a punchline. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What a mess. Well, hold on then. Why did McTiernan step away?
Oh, I don't know about that. Why did he step away? Do you know? I was only on the Alec Baldwin bit.
Yeah, no, which is good. McTiernan was on board to do the next film, but he wanted to do Clear and Present Danger. He didn't want to do Patriot Games next, and I guess John Milius had a script that for Clear and Present Danger that he wanted to use. The studio said no. We want Patriot Games to be next. John McTiernan is Irish American, and because of that, did not want to be part of Patriot Games. He wanted to step away from that. So then they started talking to other directors, Walter Hill, Kevin Reynolds, John Badham. They almost hired John Badham, but he wanted too much money. So they went with Phillip Noyce, who, what had he just done? He's an Australian director, and I want to say Dead Calm was the film that he had just done. Is that right? Dead Calm and Blind Fury. He did both of those in 1989. And that's the Rutger Hauer Blind Samurai movie that I never watched. But,
oh my God!
It's kind of a comedy Zatoichi English language film. So yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, very strange. But anyway, yeah, Phillip Noyce. So he stepped in, and it would end up doing this and the next film, and it would go on to direct a number of other interesting films. The Saint is, loved by some.
Some is me.
Joked about by others.
Me. Is others you? Because some is definitely me.
I enjoy a lot of The Saint, but there are things I don't enjoy with it. But anyway, Phillip Noyce is an interesting choice. The Noyce choice is really what they made. There, we can add that to the glossary.
Noyce choice.
When you have other directors who are in the running, but then, nope, none of them. Let's go with
Noyce takes it.
The Australian. Yeah, so the Noyce choice brought Phillip Noyce on, who, I can see the producers seeing something like Dead Calm and saying, this guy could bring an interesting energy to the film. And I don't know, maybe they saw Blind Fury and said the same thing. Who knows? But it doesn't seem like, I don't know enough about his previous films, Backroads, Newsfront, Heatwave, Echoes of Paradise. Like, I don't know if any of those have big action elements. So it's interesting that he ends up being the one who is chosen as the director. But, I think largely he did a good job with it. I mean, do you think How did you think stepping into this he handled it?
I think he did fine. I really do. I mean, if you take away all of the sort of Jack Ryan ideological concerns that I have personally, the movie's a good movie. I am entertained by this movie. I don't find it jarring. I like where they put the character. I like that he refuses the call and then takes the call in such a just textbook manner. I mean, this is a screenplay to teach from. And I find myself, I really enjoy the aesthetic of Jack Ryan and The Family Man, and being forced into this discussion or into this adventure that deals so heartily with personal versus professional duty more than the other movie, with revenge and its consequences, with actions and their consequences, with terrorists that just doesn't understand his brother had to get got.
It's
loyalty
kind of in the line of work.
Yeah, right. It's in the line of work with loyalty and betrayal. Like, it's a bloomin' onion of loyalty and betrayal tropes, right? Like even the terrorists betray each other badly because of loyalty to their dead brother. So I think so much of that actually works for me. If you get rid of all the Jack Ryan stuff, I think the movie largely works. It's a clockwork film, and I think Noyce does a good job.
Yeah, I think that he handles it well. He handles the characters well and gives us a chance to get to know the family. That was one thing with the first film. The Ryan household is largely left behind.
Right.
We meet Gates McFadden briefly as his wife as she drops him off at the airport, and we see the daughter a couple times, and that's kind of it. It's really not a story about Ryan and as a family man.
Because Gates had to get to the Enterprise, Andy. She was busy.
She walked out of that airport and said, "Beam me up."
Beam me up.
And off she went. Yeah, and so it's interesting that we have a whole new set of story here, and I think that's an element that Noyce handles well, and like the character development, the relationships. Plus, Ann Archer is just great as his wife, and I enjoy watching kind of the family dynamics play out, because it's a big part of this film, like family. And
it is.
Are they going to be killed or not?
Killed and second-time parents. Like, it's a real yo-yo. I do think Ann Archer in this movie, there are sequences where she's relating to Jack, and I just wonder if I'm seeing through her character, and I'm just looking at Ann Archer asking herself, why am I here, children? I don't know why I'm watching you do the things you do, children. She just is. She's a little bit. She's delightfully holier than thou, right? Like she's just above it all. She floats above it all.
Well, okay. Here's a question about Ann Archer and her role in this film as Kathy Ryan and even in the next film. Is Ann Archer tasked too much in these films? Along with, I feel like this is kind of her lot in this period of time of playing the wife role.
Yeah.
And, in the 80s, I feel like, in particular, the wife role, and I say the 80s, it's never really gone away. The wife role is still a part that a lot of fantastic actresses have ended up having to just do because there aren't as many great roles. Yeah. And so, Ann Archer is playing, it's a small part, and she just is the wife here and in the next film. In Fatal Attraction, she is the wife, and her husband she's having to deal with her husband's philandering.
The difference is in Fatal Attraction is there is a meaty female role in that movie. Right.
Right. It's just not hers.
It's just not hers.
Yeah. She gets to help kill the meatier role. Yeah.
Right.
But that's the thing. And I, as much as I enjoy watching Ann Archer on screen, and maybe to your point, like, she's just maybe rolling her eyes and saying, here I am being a part of Boys Club. Yep.
That's exactly it. That's exactly what I get from Ann Archer. And I love Ann Archer. That is a pro Ann Archer statement.
Yeah.
That right. She's sort of sitting above it.
Yeah, she does it well.
Sean Bean, however, gives us peak Sean Bean. Quivering, sweaty terrorist Sean Bean. Quavering voice of malice Sean Bean. What'd you think of Sean Miller?
I really enjoy Sean Bean, and I'm trying to remember now. I need to look at his IMDb because I'm trying to think, is this the earliest film of his that I've seen? I don't know. Oh, I guess How to Get Ahead in Advertising. He did before this. That's the only other film of his that I've seen, and it's more of I think of Richard E. Grant with that film. I can't even remember what part he plays in that, but he is in it. But like that's the only other thing of his that I've seen before Patriot Games, and I hadn't seen that in my life chronologically before Patriot Games. So this was my first time encountering Sean Bean and who he would go on to kind of become. I enjoy him here. I think that he plays this well. I think this would obviously lead well to roles like GoldenEye, where he kind of plays, a similar sort of villain. If I have struggles with the film, it's not Sean Bean. It's that this terrorist group has brought him into the fold, yet they can't, they do nothing to, I feel like there are times where it seems like they're working to calm him down and say, you know what, let it go. Life goes on. We've got bigger fish to fry.
That argument is notoriously not at home with the IRA. Just let it go is not part of their manual.
Clearly. But it's just like they're sending people to North Africa to train and stuff. It's like, you know what? But let's take a small group, go over to the States. And, okay, everything that they're doing is potentially risking getting caught or killed. And they have things that they're trying to do. But no, let's take a moment, I can't remember how many they initially send, at least 4 people over to the U.S. to try taking out Ryan and his family.
Mm-hmm.
They're spending their money and everything. It's just like there's so many things that I end up struggling as I think about this movie. It's a fun movie, like you said. I have a fun time watching and just enjoying the ride. But when I think about the logic of all of this, I'm like, Patrick Bergen's character just needs to slap him and say, "Move past it. We're trying to kidnap a royal here. So shut up."
You would have been a great IRA general, Andy.
Thank you.
I think you have it. You have the vibe. But see, that's really interesting because this is a mirror story, right? Like he is avenging, Sean Bean's character, Sean Miller, is avenging the death of his family, and Jack Ryan is protecting his family, right? Like they're both family stories, and the degree to which they work is like the degree to which you're able to let go of the fact that the IRA has a bigger mission, just like the CIA does. It's just the difference is the CIA kind of comes to Jack's aid in a way that the IRA doesn't necessarily support with Miller. Like, I just think that the discussion of family protection and the sacrifice that our characters make on the journey to protect and avenge their family is purportedly the interesting thing going on in this movie. And I think it's interesting that you don't buy the Miller angle as much. I don't know if I do, but I do think your perspective is interesting.
Well, and here's the thing. Maybe I would have an easier time buying it if Miller wasn't just a goon on the team, right?
He's not the boss.
No, Patrick Bergen's character, Kevin O'Donnell, he's the leader of this. And we keep saying the IRA. It's like this terrorist faction within the IRA. Like, we have Richard Harris telling us that time and time again. They're not really
they're not IRA.
But anyway, if he were in O'Donnell's role and his minions were getting frustrated that, why are you spending our money and sending us to do these things when we really should be focusing on the actual task at hand, then I would have an easier time buying it. I think that's my struggle is I'm like, why is O'Donnell, doing all of this for Miller? Like, that's part of my struggle. Now later I can buy the whole attack at the end later. Like they set up this whole fake thing to get the Lord Holmes over to the Ryan's house for this thank you dinner and everything and this awards presentation. Like I can buy them setting that whole thing up to use it as a way to get him out of the country, to get him to an isolated place in this little house. And like that I can buy much more. It's the one time that they send all of these people to attack. And I mean, I love the sequence and the
sequence is great.
Highway. Like that whole sequence is fantastic. It's just the struggle I have of actually buying into the realities that they would make way for that to happen.
Yes. Yeah. Tell me where you get that this was all, where did they set it up to get the guy over there? They were already having, the Ryans were already having the party at their house. That was already scheduled. Who was it who manipulated it so that the royals would have to go on that day? Is that what you're saying? Did I miss it? Have I missed it all these years?
Yeah, there's that whole, because they have an inside, the terrorists have an insider.
They have their scheduling guy. Yeah,
with that, and so it's scheduling the date, but it's also scheduling, coordinating it so the Ryans are. I don't know how all of they kind of skirt past a lot of it. Instead of having it at the embassy, which is the initial plan of having it at the embassy, they somehow figure out, hey, the Ryans are going to have this thing at their house. Why don't you just go there instead of doing it like having the Ryans come to the embassy, which would obviously have been much harder for them to do.
Okay, let me just give you my read on it, because that feels really complicated to me.
It is really complicated.
I know, but this is less complicated. The guy says, we need to present this thing and we're going to do it on this date at the embassy. The Ryans say, I'm not coming to the embassy, thus saying, this is my flex. You're not important enough.
The Ryans?
Yeah.
You think the Ryans say that?
The Ryans say that. I'm not coming to your embassy because I have my child's birthday party and family is more important. And the royal says, hey, this would be fun. You just invited me to your daughter's birthday party. Let's all go there. And the inside mole said, you guys aren't going to believe this. We have an opportunity where everybody's going to be in this house. I don't think the IRA architected it. I think they stumbled onto it and took advantage of it.
Well, and that's possible too. However it happens, I guess it's an odd choice to work it all out, especially the fact that I don't know, how many were there? 4 or 5 total IRA members who come into the house?
Who are
take
very
out
talented.
Every single person on the outside. All of the local police, because we've got local police out there.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the British, or they said that he was traveling light, so he only had a few security people for some strange reason. I don't know. I feel like when royalty or any presidential person travels, they have a whole squadron of people that they're traveling with to kind of protect them. So
They do. There were British schooners from the 1800s in the bay. Cannons tuned straight at Ryan's house.
I like that his house is like Manderley. It's like this house up on top of this cliff. It's like, where is he living?
To tell me you didn't want to live there when you first saw this movie. What an awesome place.
It is great until the power goes out. Then I'm like,
yeah. And you have to imagine they only have DSL internet there. Like nobody's probably satellite.
Yeah, good luck paying the fiber company to run the line out there.
Exactly. Okay, so we've agreed that it's nonsense, and it's still a good movie. We get a hot second with our man James Earl Jones as Admiral Greer.
Yeah, not much in this one.
No, definitely not much.
Really, and he's kind of one of the team who's there to re-recruit him. He shows up at his house, and I like that. Jack Ryan is like, well, and your first thought is to come see me.
Yeah,
I know where you're going.
I don't believe this either. Let's hang a cat on it. Wait, put a lantern on it. Hang a cat on a lantern. Okay, now I have to get to a potentially controversial casting: Richard Harris as a useful tool.
Oh, okay.
What do you think of Richard Harris in this role?
Controversial casting because of it being Richard Harris in a small role, or because why?
Because I think the part is not worthy of Sir Richard Harris.
Okay. I
think we have too much of it, right? Like, I didn't need so much of the IRA saying, it's not me. It's not me. Like, I felt like they wove too much of it, and it was the same thing every time we met Richard Harris. It was like, let me just buy you a drink. It's not me. It's not me. I think it was overwrought when the real crux of the story was elsewhere. And the fact that we have a part that is simply a tool of exposition and denial cast with this guy, Richard Harris, who is so iconic, I thought was overdone. Is it too much?
For me, I don't feel like it's too much. I mean, for me at the time, like, I would not have been able to, like, I wouldn't have cared that it was him at all. Like, I had probably seen him in some things like Camelot and things like that, but I don't think that I was walking into this and saying, oh, why are they putting such a big famous actor in this small role? if anything, I can't remember if this opened before Unforgiven or not, but same year for both of these. This opened first, so I saw this, and then I go, oh, that's that guy from Patriot Games when I watched Unforgiven. I think if anything, I feel like he's Irish. He's a good representative actor to play a member of the IRA in an American movie, to give us a sense of that conflict for this story, because I feel like even though it's not the IRA that is the group that's targeting Ryan, there's enough of it in the story with the inner turmoils going on between his IRA and this group. We have the whole attack on the house, remember, along with your opening line, the woman killing that other lieutenant of the IRA. We have enough of that in the story that we need somebody in here to just help us, remind us like what's actually happening in the world. And so, I don't know. I mean, yeah, he's a big actor, but I think that it worked for me having him in here because it just gives me a face to put with all of that conflict. And whether I'm agreeing or disagreeing with him, I end up buying him as a prominent figure in this. And that final moment when he delivers that package, the present to Ryan with the information, like I thought that it played really well.
Well, and I think to your point, there is also an alt universe version of this movie that centers around him playing effectively the sort of aesthetic role of the Irish Jack Ryan, right? When we look at the mirror elements of this story, he is the Jack Ryan for the Irish, like still trying to figure out what's going on and what the motivations are behind his people. And so in that regard, I guess I like and appreciate it. It just, to me, it felt like a repetitive revisit of the same issues every time we come back to him. But I get your point, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I like him. I like him so much, right? Like,
yeah,
how do you not like Richard Harris?
I guess his character in the book, he's the representative for the Provisional Irish Republican Army in the British Parliament. So I don't think, if that was mentioned in the movie, I don't think it came across that he's actually a government official effectively working with Britain from the Irish side, trying to help all of that. I guess maybe I just don't fully understand some of these things when they are talking about their roles and stuff in the movie, because I think that we meet him first on TV and he's talking about the attack, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, that is one of the critical complaints of this book, even I would say more than Red October, is that they took Tom Clancy's book and simplified it way too much, right? Like there is so much technical detail and nuance in the political machine in this book that, and my hunch is on a reread, I would find that too, that his role is vastly expanded in the book to be of much more resonance.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because one of the issues, or not an issue, but notes with this movie, or no, with the book actually, when Tom Clancy wrote it, is that this film, he did not, like a lot of espionage novels like Ludlum or Le Carré, he does not play with moral ambiguity with his villains in it. And there was an essay written on his book by Mark Saraceni, who said this, quote, "Clancy's sensible revulsion toward the terrorists is so strident and intense that it verges on the physical. The author's understandable disgust towards his villains is bourgeois, for there is not a shred of sympathy for these Irish, quote, patriots." So it's just interesting, like how much he really just did not hide his feelings when he wrote the book about the Irish, the IRA, these terrorists and all that.
Well, in that regard, I mean, it's such a propagandist film, right? It's such a rah-rah America. I mean, compare this to its antithesis, The Crying Game, which is like, nobody is simple in that movie. Like, everybody is a complicated tapestry of ideologies and worldviews, and this movie is just not. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. It is anti-terrorist American patriotism.
Absolutely, yeah. To the point where, I mean, the terrorists are attacking the country or attacking Jack. They're coming in and going after him. They're attacking him right outside of Annapolis, where he walks off campus, and there they are already attacking him. They're attacking his wife on the highway after just picking up their daughter from school. And it's pretty bold, the actions that they're doing. And I'm curious, because we talked about how much we like kind of like that highway sequence and everything. What sequences really stand out for you as the kind of like the would you say the standout moments of the film?
I think the opening sequence where Jack goes into action is an important sequence in the film, certainly for his character. For me, the night sight sequences at the end in his house, that's the standout sequence for me. I think mostly because that also, hits me personally because of where I stand on home invasion stuff. It is unpleasant.
Yeah. I'm surprised this didn't come up in any of your home invasion series, like Outside in the Dark or anything.
Right. It is unpleasant. And so that I always find that a really energetic kind of cold sweat sort of a sequence for me. What about you?
My favorite sequence has always been the satellite attack on the camp in Libya. I found that like such an interesting, especially at the time, like this, my recollection is like that was the first time we saw like a visual satellite attack like that, which was really cool because it just shows you how the technology has advanced, where we're watching this whole thing play out with infrared cameras shot by these satellites as helicopters and troops come in and raid and pretty much wipe out this entire terrorist camp in Libya. And that was just fantastic, and it was exhilarating, and it spoke to me like how they operate. Like, this is how CIA operations run, where you're just seeing it like this. They're all just standing in a room and they're watching this. And even to the point where Jack is brought into the room and he's just like, where are we going? Oh, it's like top secret. He's like, hey, you got yourself here. You're in this, you've created this situation. So we're going to go watch this thing. Like, the way all of that plays is just so fascinating. And also James Horner, I love James Horner's music here, especially when it's the Irish themes and everything. He does get a little repetitive with some of his themes from Aliens, and also using some of the classical music that he had used previously or brought in previously with films like Aliens. And so some of it, I love the music in the satellite sequence, even if it is something that I haven't heard before, but it plays incredibly well. That is my favorite sequence of the film.
It's a really powerful sequence, and I think your point is right there. Like, we've seen a lot of crazy stuff and gunfights and all that stuff so far in the movie, and it's the sequence that doesn't show us the gruesomeness of those battles, but heavy up on the brutality. Right? It's just like brutality at such a great distance that I think is the impactful statement for the film for me. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, enemy of the state. Right?
Yeah.
Satellites, man.
Yeah. It's crazy stuff. We talked about the action sequences. I mean, how does that last sequence play for you? They reshot it. I guess originally it was just them fighting in the water and underwater, and that was it. And audiences they said it was too boring. And so they came back in, got extra money from the studio, and they reshot the entire ending, and they made it an exciting boat chase. I will say it never, ever feels like I'm on a wet stage, like it actually feels pretty authentic. I enjoy the way that it all feels, but it is very action heavy. Like, how does that play for you?
It predictably, it's so action heavy. Like, I just... Oh my God. Like, it's a great sequence, and maybe not for this movie. We just had a fantastic house sequence, and maybe we should have ended it in the house somehow, because just the fact that Jack is leading them into the ocean, and we have the shoot 'em up across boats, and the boats are jostling around, and yet still they're somehow a danger to each other with gunshots. It feels, it like takes it beyond the level of credulity. Like, I just don't believe it anymore. It takes me out of the film.
I also get frustrated that Miller's way out of the situation that he has with Kevin O'Donnell and Annette, the woman, is that he's just going to kill them. And I'm like, oh, like I was hoping we'd build to something at least that had the three of them in some complex way that could have built into a little more complex finale between the four characters. But no, he just kills them and is like, oh, okay, well, that's a little bit of a letdown that we just, potentially interesting characters could have had more done with and just are dropped.
They could have had a turn, like a last minute turn is exhilarating, and instead they're dead. Yeah, I'm absolutely with you.
Yeah, the other funny thing about it, I was watching this with my wife, and we see the terrorists on top of the cliff looking down at the bay with the two boats, and one boat takes off, and my wife goes, "Why didn't they just take both boats?" I'm like, good point. Yeah.
Why did they hide? Oh my God. That's a very good point. Well, that's such a good point, in fact, that I think we should litigate this, because that implies that Ryan didn't have his ultimate plan, which I have to imagine is to lead them out into the open ocean to their death, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to run them into some craggly rocks. That was the plan. That seems like the plan.
Apparently. That's what he does, yeah.
It's a terrible plan. It is a terrible plan. He's not a great analyst in this moment.
And he's like relying on the fact that there's going to be a helicopter to save him. But I'm like, what if they didn't come?
Yes,
and you're just out in the middle of an ocean, holding on to a craggly rock.
It is cold. The Atlantic is cold that time of year, I think, all the time. And so, yeah, I didn't buy that they should have taken two boats. What do you think of the way it was shot? We've talked about Donald McAlpine before. Donald McAlpine did Moulin Rouge, did Predator, Romeo plus Juliet.
William Shakespeare's Romeo plus Juliet.
Yes, right. As it was originally written on the Globe Theatre plus Juliet. He's done some very big action-y movies, and how do you feel like it hit?
The Adventures of Barry Mackenzie, which I talked about on CinemaScope in the Ozploitation series.
Look at
that
you.
was a
Well done.
wacky little movie. Very, very funny. Lots of great films. Definitely an Aussie DP who I think does a good job crafting the world here. I think I get a sense of the clean Hollywood look that largely it has. Like nothing stands out too much as playing with things in certain ways. I think if anything, the work on the satellite sequence is impressive, the way that they came up with for that. For that, they filmed it in the desert. They had all the actors wearing black and like full black outfits. And then they filmed it from helicopters up on high. And then they just reversed the image so that it was a black image with little white figures running around. And that's all they did there. And then, obviously filming the stuff at night. And I often, like when we're filming those Hollywood sound stages, those wet stages with boats and everything, I'm always impressed when I don't feel I'm on a stage. And that certainly worked here. They put in that extra money to do the reshoots for the end and actually made it look good. So, I mean, it looked like night, it looked like a stormy sea, that all played really well for me.
Absolutely, for me too. Absolutely. I thought it was really great. And I think he really handles the suspense of the darkness very, very well. And he made it scary, threatening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. McAlpine, I wonder, had he been on board with this already, where's the line? Because McTiernan didn't have him shoot Hunt for Red October, but McTiernan had used him before. And then Noyce, I don't think he had worked with Noyce before, but obviously they're both Australian. So it's just an interesting conflux of how all of this came together. In fact, the same year he shot this for Noyce, he also shot Medicine Man for McTiernan. So,
okay.
Yeah.
We should see if we can get McAlpine on movies we like.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Any other cast? What do you think of Thora Birch as the kid? Does she give a solid child performance?
Absolutely. I thought she was great. She's one of those kids who's just barely that preternatural kid. Like her sophistication is almost too adult. Like there's this period where you have these kids who you find who present as way too adult than they are. But Thora Birch is just like walking that line. And I think she was fantastic. I thought she was super charming.
I think that she does a good job playing the kid and never quite feels scripted. Like, and that can be hard for kids sometimes, but I think that she largely plays it really well, and it's kind of fun to see. So we kind of walked through the cast. I just gotta say, James Fox, I always love seeing James Fox on screen.
For sure.
He's one of those great actors. All those Foxes, they're just fun actors to watch. I always confuse him and his brother, though. Like, I always think James Fox was in The Day of the Jackal, but it's his brother who is in The Day of the Jackal. They're just
Edward Fox, right?
Yeah.
And then his Robert Fox is the producer. He's not an actor. Okay.
Correct. He's a producer of things like Notes on a Scandal, The Hours.
Yeah.
And Patrick Bergen, we talked about in Robin Hood. That was, I think, the only time we've talked about.
That's right. That's right. Oh my God.
The other 1991 Robin Hood movie.
Yeah.
I like him better here.
Me too, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to see where this franchise is going to go after this one, because we go from here to the only other one that carries through with many of the players. I think the only person, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only actor who goes from the first to this one is James Earl Jones, right?
JEG, that's right.
Yeah. So we'll see how it works when we jump into the next one. Oh, just as a last note, what do you think of the cliffhanger ending?
I don't know. Did you care that much about his family planning to make that part the cliffhanger?
It's a surprise, isn't it? Like, to end it that way?
Are we going to come back to the next movie just to see what his next kid is?
I guess so. The book apparently ends, he arrives in Annapolis for his son's birth. So in the book, he does get to see his son being born. In this, it's a weird way to end it. And I always go back to, like, I wonder why they made that decision to go through this process. Because we have a whole thing between, like, father and daughter. Do we find out? Should we find out? I don't know. What do you want? Do we want to? And I don't know. It's a weird thing to play it that way, but
I thought it was weird. It's not so much that I didn't care for it. It's just, it was weird and a little bit empty for me. I guess that's it.
Well, it's just a weird film to say, let's put a cliffhanger ending on it.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be right back, but first our credits.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson, music by the Carmel Quartet, Ziv Moran, Alma Zohar, Max H., Oriel Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. There he is. It's Jacob, taking a mindful walk in nature, breathing in the fresh air. His feet are bare. Jacob is connecting with the earth, reminding himself through his somatic practice that he, as a biological organism, is no better or worse than the life that surrounds him. He is one with it. What a loser. Now he's swimming laps, getting exercise, releasing endorphins, improving his cardiovascular health, thus ensuring that he will live a long and healthy life for the people who care about him so very deeply. Nerd. Look at him, making pottery there, expressing his creativity, finding inner peace as his fingers massage the formless clay into an Incan wedding vase. Get a life, Jacob. And now he's reading, expanding his knowledge, engaging his imagination. Oh, so fascinating, Jacob. Tell us more about your relationship with that plant right there. Meditating, finding his center, achieving enlightenment. Total dweeb. Poor Jacob. His life is so small, so limited. You see, Jacob was homeschooled and completely missed the world-expanding wonder of screen time. The lesson today? Don't be a Jacob. Be you. And by you, I mean someone who enjoys a good movie marathon. head over to the Next Reel Watch page at thenextreel.com/watch. We've got all the latest films we've discussed on the Next Reel family of film podcasts, from the blockbusters to the indie gems and cult classics you crave. And the best part, every time you rent or buy a movie through the Next Reel Watch page, you're directly supporting all the amazing podcasts of the Next Reel. So skip the mindful walk, the pottery, and the existential plant literature. Embrace the couch. Embrace the snacks. Embrace the entertainment. Visit the Next Reel Watch page today at thenextreel.com/watch. And most important, don't be a Jacob. Sequels and remakes. Oh, it's the same thing. We're going to talk about every week.
It is, yeah, it's this series. I was actually looking because, The Hunt for Red October ended up having a number of video games made. And I was like, I wonder if that's going to hold true all the way through. I couldn't find anything about video games made from this one. I don't know if it just there wasn't interest or what. But yeah, nothing other than moving on to the next film after this.
Did you check, in Ireland?
I didn't. Maybe there's a good IRA game that they
IRA
had put
games.
out at the time.
Yeah, big IRA video game economy. All right, how did it do at award season?
It didn't do great. It was pretty small. One win with 3 other nominations. At the ASCAP Film and Television Music Awards, James Horner won for the top box office films. It's kind of one, they pick a bunch of films and they all are winners. It was this film, Aladdin, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Sister Act, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and Wayne's World. So those are the films that won the top box office films at the ASCAP Film and TV Music Awards. At the Young Artists Award, Thora Birch was nominated for Best Young Actress Under 10 in a Major Motion Picture, but lost to Allison Porter in Curly Sue. Last but not least, these are much later awards. At the 2004 Saturn Awards, it was nominated for Best DVD Collection, but lost to The Adventures of Indiana Jones DVD Collection. And in 2019, it was yet again nominated for Best DVD and Blu-ray Collection, but lost to the Universal Classic Monsters 30 Film Collection. So
30 films. That's just a flex. Come on.
It is a bit of a flex, yeah. Lots of movies.
All right. How'd it do at the box office?
While I'm unsure of the starting budget for Noyce's entry into the franchise with Ford as Ryan, because they then had to do these reshoots that we talked about to create a more explosive ending, that's when the budget crept up to $45 million. So, again, I don't know where it started. With the cost of prints and advertising, the total was $65 million, or $146.9 million in today's dollars. The movie opened June 5th, 1992, opposite Class Act, and landed in the #1 spot, which it only held for 2 weeks before being bumped out by Batman Returns. Unlike its predecessor, this one only stayed in the top 10 for 6 weeks and did not land in the year's top 10 like Hunt for Red October did. Still, it did well at the box office, earning $83.3 million domestically and $94.8 million internationally for a total gross of $402.6 million in today's dollars. That lands it with an adjusted profit per finished minute of just under $2.2 million. A bit of a drop from the previous entry, but still a success.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
$2.2 million a minute. Come on.
I only need a minute of that.
I know, right?
Right?
Our needs are modest.
That's right.
Great movie. Glad to be continuing this series.
It's a fun one. I can't say it's my least favorite of all of them because I can't remember some of All Fears or Jack Ryan well enough. But so far, this is under Hunt for Red October for me.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it's hard to beat Hunt for Red October. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
But how far? I guess we'll find out.
Exactly. Well, we'll be right back for our ratings, but first here's the trailer for next week's movie, Phillip Noyce's 1994 follow-up, Clear and Present Danger.
Some say the greatest threat to America.
These drug cartels represent a clear and present danger to the national security of the United States.
Comes from other nations. Some say the greatest threat to America.
The course of action I'd suggest is a course of action I can't suggest.
Comes from within.
We are 2 minutes to target. Looks like we've got our own little war.
Harrison Ford is Jack Ryan.
I'm appointing Ryan the acting deputy director, intelligence.
The finding clearly states that our assistance is limited to supply and advice only.
He doesn't know about it, Bobby.
No troops, then.
No troops.
He needs to know nothing. He's gonna know nothing.
The laws
he swore to uphold are at risk.
The explosion here rocked the ranch of Enrique Rojas less than an hour ago.
You said it was going to be a surgical strike. That's a kid they just brought out on NBC.
Why was I left out of it?
You see everything in black and white.
Not black and white, right and wrong.
The honor he is determined to defend is at stake.
I'm afraid if I dig any deeper, no one's going to like what I find.
Want to know about politics in Washington? I can explain it in 4 words. Watch your back, Jack.
He's coming to you with no security. Once Ryan's gone, we're back online.
Based on the #1 best-selling novel.
There are troops, Jack! I didn't know that. You know I didn't know that.
Harrison Ford.
You went before Congress and you got the money for it. You went before Congress and you lied to...
I never lied to Congress.
You lied.
Willem Dafoe.
I'm on a plane. I'm gonna kill him.
Anne Archer.
Are you going away again?
Be careful.
And James Earl Jones.
You took an oath. You gave your word to the people of the United States.
Who authorized this?
I think it's time the whole thing went away.
Then it should go away.
I will not let you dishonor their memories by telling me you had nothing to do with it.
How dare you come into this office and bark at me like some little junkyard dog? I am the President of the United States.
How dare you, sir?
Paramount Pictures presents this summer's most electrifying motion picture, Clear and Present Danger.
Attention all operatives. This is a classified briefing from the Cinematic Intelligence Agency's senior analyst. We've identified a critical asset in the world of film analysis, and we require your assistance to secure its intel and expand our network of operatives. The asset in question is The Next Reel, a highly respected organization renowned for its comprehensive film discussions and expert analysis. By infiltrating their ranks and acquiring a membership, you will gain access to a wealth of exclusive content that will significantly bolster your understanding of this cinematic battleground. As a member, you will receive intel packages in the form of ad-free episodes, ensuring that your listening experience remains uncompromised and secure. You'll also gain access to their private communication channel, a Discord community where you can strategize with fellow operatives who share your dedication to the art of cinema. Operatives who demonstrate unwavering loyalty and commitment will be granted higher security clearance, unlocking extended episode editions that provide an even more comprehensive analysis of the films we investigate. This highly sensitive information is available only to our most trusted agents. To join this elite unit, you will need to allocate funds from your operational budget. The cost of infiltration is $5 per month or $55 per year. Navigate to truestory.fm/join and use the code word subscribe to activate your membership. Once inside, you'll be fully equipped to navigate the complex world of cinema, armed with the knowledge and insights provided by The Next Reel. The realm of film is a minefield of hidden agendas, unexpected plot twists, and dangerous ideologies. But with The Next Reel as your strategic partner, you will be prepared to confront any challenge and emerge victorious. This concludes your briefing, operative. Your mission is critical to the success of our agency. Join The Next Reel and help us secure the future of film analysis.
Letterboxd, Andy. What you gonna do for Letterboxd? This is the big question. Last week we were both 5 stars and a heart. This week, I reckon we're not 5 stars and a heart. I'm gonna wager we're yes on a heart, but how far below 5 stars are you willing to go?
That's the question. That is the question. I enjoy this movie. I've seen it a number of times. I always have fun watching it, but I think 3 stars and a heart is where it sits for me. And I'm totally okay with that.
Andy, I'm 3 stars and a heart too.
Are you really?
We're twinsies on this too.
I was debating, why is it only 3? Because for some reason, I was thinking you would be trying to figure out, is it 3 or 4?
I am trying to figure out a 3 or 4, but the problem is we're doing Clear and Present Danger next week. And how dare 3 stars bark at me like some sort of a junkyard dog?
I think every episode, you're going to find a way to work that in.
Yep.
I can't wait to see how it plays next week. It'll be constant. Everything I say. How dare you come in here?
Yeah. So I think it's going to be 3 stars because I think I already know where Clear and Present Danger is going to land. It is also not a Red October for me, but it's closer to Red October than Patriot Games.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to check that one out again as well, so it'll be interesting to see. Well, that lands us, on average, 3 stars and a heart over at our count to the next reel on Letterboxd. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film. You can find Pete there at Pete Wright. So what did you think about Patriot Games? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community, where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Letterboxd giveth, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
I bring to you a 2.5 star from Cinema Joe.
Oh. Ooh, okay.
All right. Cinema Joe says, everything I find interesting about the movie revolves more around its success and existence rather than the specifics of the film itself, which is mostly a slog to watch. It becomes far more interesting when viewing through the hyper-nationalist pro-military lens of the early 90s, which is essentially the DNA of all Tom Clancy material. The American in a foreign country is still possessed by the call of duty to protect the innocent and uphold the rule of law. Then back on his own soil, he's all-American dad. It's fascinating stuff. The movie, not so much. Sean Bean was good, though. So, I mean, I totally relate. I think I thought the movie was probably exactly a half star better than Cinema Joe, but I do love the efficiency with which he distills the DNA of the movie, because that's really true. All American dad, Harrison Ford.
Very true. To the point where James Earl Jones asks him, like, is there anything that is, what is the line? Is there anything that is, you know, you can always count on in this life or whatever? And he's like, a daughter's love.
A daughter's love. Oh my God, you're right. Oh,
wow.
Oh,
okay.
Yes. Gross. Oh, so gross.
Excuse me, Jack. Tell me one thing in life that is absolutely for certain.
A daughter's love.
All right. So I have this from Leighton Trent, 3-star review. Leighton Trent, I like that is getting ready for Thanksgiving, because Leighton Trent's name also includes a drumstick and a turkey. So
good.
Pointing that out.
Leighton Trent is your people.
There you go. There are many things that make me happy, but these 3 things here are prime comfort food bullet points. 1, lukewarm Tom Clancy adaptations. 2, dad thrillers, and from the 90s, even better. 3, angry Harrison Ford. Bonus points for angry pointing included. There's no reason this should be such a slog to get through, but let's chalk it up to questionable Clancy source material that plays around with a good bit here, but gives us no real payoff in return. Honestly, I was kind of rooting for IRA Splinter Cell leader Sean Bean's "You killed my brother, prepare to die" vendetta, and I'm not even a little bit sad about that.
Yeah, you know what? You push this into anti-hero territory, and I'm right along with Leighton Trent. Yeah. Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, thanks, Letterboxd. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for A Streetcar Named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way.